Hey everyone, and welcome back to the 5 p.m. podcast. I'm Dan, your resident political nerd, and as always, I'm here with Tina.
Hey everyone. Always excited to be here, especially when we've got a topic as interesting as today's. It's January 23rd, 2025, by the way, and things are heating up in the world of international politics.
Oh man, you're not kidding. So, everyone's talking about this statement from Trump, right? Basically, he's telling Putin to hurry up and make a deal to end this whole war in Ukraine.
Right, and it's not just a suggestion, is it? He's saying that if a deal isn't made quickly, he's going to bring down some serious economic pain on Russia.
Yeah, like high taxes, tariffs, and sanctions. It's kind of his signature move, you know? Go big or go home.
Okay, wait, let me get this straight. He's threatening economic measures if they don't negotiate. But hasn't that already been happening? I mean, there are already sanctions in place, right?
Exactly. There have been sanctions since the whole thing started back in 2022. I was just reading this World Bank report that said the Russian economy actually shrank by over 2% in 2023 because of the existing sanctions.
Wow, 2%? That's significant. So, what's different about what Trump's proposing? Is he talking about even stricter measures?
That's what it sounds like. He's talking about cranking it up big time. Think about it this way. It's like the current sanctions are a garden hose, and Trump's talking about a fire hose.
Haha, okay, that's a good analogy. But how much pressure can an economy really take? And is this just going to hurt regular people in Russia?
That's the thing about sanctions, right? They're meant to target the government, but they end up affecting everyone. There's this expert, Dr. Angela Johnson from the Council on Foreign Relations, who pointed out that this kind of approach can be risky.
Oh yeah? What did she say?
She said that while it might speed up negotiations, it could also send the wrong message. Like, it might make it seem like aggression is okay as long as you eventually come to the table.
That makes sense. You know what this reminds me of? That whole situation with the Minsk agreements years ago.
Oh, the ones that were supposed to end the fighting in Donbass? What about them?
Yeah, they were supposed to be this big peace deal, but they never really worked out. Both sides kept accusing each other of breaking the rules. It just shows how hard it is to make these kinds of agreements stick, especially when there's so much distrust.
Totally. It's kind of like, you know when you're trying to share a pizza, and everyone agrees on the toppings, but then someone starts sneaking extra slices?
Haha, exactly. And then everyone's mad, and the pizza party is ruined. So how is this whole thing affecting the U.S.'s relationships with other countries, especially in Europe?
Well, here's the thing about that. This could make things awkward with NATO allies. I was reading a report from the NATO Strategic Communications Center of Excellence. Yeah, that's a real thing. And they said that any unilateral action by the U.S. could weaken the united front they've had going on.
So basically, everyone's been on the same page about supporting Ukraine, and now Trump's coming in like, I've got a better idea?
Pretty much. And some experts are saying it could damage trust in U.S. leadership. I mean, we've been giving Ukraine a ton of military aid, minus $75 billion since the war started, according to the U.S. Department of Defense.
Wow. So what's the alternative? Just keep things as they are?
Well, that's what the Biden administration has been doing. Supporting Ukraine, keeping up the sanctions, working with allies. But a Pew Research poll just showed that public opinion is pretty divided on that. Only 48% support continuing the current level of aid.
It's a tough situation. It's like, do you try to force a quick solution? Or do you play the long game and hope for a better outcome later?
Right? And there's also the whole ethical question. Ambassador William Taylor, who used to be the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, said that any deal has to respect Ukraine's sovereignty.
That's a big one. I mean, you can't just let a country get invaded and then say, okay, let's just forget about it.
I was just reading about this. Professor Mikhail Petrov, a Russian expert, thinks the threat might not even work. He says Russia has gotten used to sanctions and has found ways to work around them.
So it might not even be effective? That's interesting. It's like when you try to ground a teenager, and they just find sneakier ways to use their phone.
Haha, exactly. But seriously, it just shows how complicated this whole thing is. There are so many moving parts, so many different interests involved.
And it sounds like Trump's proposal is shaking things up, even if it's not clear whether it'll actually work.
For sure. This is something we're going to be watching closely. It could change the whole direction of U.S. foreign policy, and not just in Ukraine.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a really eye-opening discussion, Dan. Thanks for breaking it all down for us.
My pleasure, Tina. And thanks to all of you for listening. This is a complex issue, and we've only scratched the surface. But hopefully, this gives you a better understanding of what's going on.
And we want to hear from you. What do you think about Trump's call for a deal? Let us know on social media, and join us next time for another episode of the 5 p.m. podcast.